She sure will.
Sorry, I
Like, where you
connected
at?
your microphone.
Somebody, there we go.
Ben,
Back up.
this is it.
Headache.
Good morning.
Morning.
Apologize for the technical difficulties. Welcome to the pre-meeting of the Newark Municipal Council on Tuesday, February 3rd. Council President, council members, we have an appointment on page 27.
Thank you. Before we begin, though, I just wanted to say a couple words. To thank Councilman Gonzalez for his service, for 20 years of being a public servant for the community. As I'm sure everybody knows by now, he is not running for reelection. But I just wanted to publicly state that we appreciate your service, appreciate what you've done. I've always said you were there for my mom long before anybody else was back in '98. And so I just want to thank you for what you've done for the city of Newark and for the residents. And I know this doesn't mean the end of your public service. It just means you're moving on to a new chapter. But, we appreciate what you've done, what you're going to be doing. And we want to thank you personally.
Thank you, Mr. President. It has been the honor of my life to serve the residents of the city of Newark. I just want to enjoy the rest of my life, dedicating time to my family, my children, my grandchildren. But I will always cherish the experience that I had here with my colleagues. Thank you.
No, thank you. Councilman Kelly wants.
Yes.
I just want to say we really appreciate you, Councilman. I know a lot of times we have differences up here, but I learned a lot from you. Hearing how you delegate with agendas and things that we need to do on behalf of the business of the city, I've learned from you. I thank you for allowing me to lean over and whisper in your ear about some things, and you giving me direction, allowing me to come to your office and talk to you. See, people don't see that part on the other side. They just see when we disagree. But we actually agree more than we disagree. And, I always love this city, and I swear that I express how I love it the most. But meeting you, you're one person who loves this city wholeheartedly. And I just want to say thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Quintana.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Gonzalez, for your service. And, not just as a councilman, but as a friend. On many occasions in your house, we met in the back, downstairs, Margarita and yourself. And, this is something that I always treasure. As a council person, it's not just coming up here and sitting up here. Sometimes you have to have that network of friendship. I remember in the past, it's always been relationships, like the late Donald Tucker and myself, who had a relationship. And this is what we have to learn. And when you open your door to your house on many occasions, and when there was one election, you drove me around. I'll never forget that you were my driver. And you said, don't worry, well, we gotta go. I said, Carlos, I'm gonna drive you crazy. And you have always been a friend. And your knowledge and wisdom to this Newark Municipal Council means a lot to me. The history of the city, and you will be in that history of the city, when the darkest days were, when no one wanted to come to the city. 20 years ago, you couldn't do much around here because people were having doubts, and you didn't. On tax abatements, you have always asked the questions and always raised questions in conscience to this body. For me, it's, you're not retiring, you're just gonna relax a little bit. And then on one of the trips, you're gonna invite me to Ecuador with you, and we'll spend a little time. I'm not buying a house there, but we're gonna spend a little time together, and you and Margarita, your wife, the deputy mayor, Margarita, who's also someone who paved the way in this town. Because of Margarita, the deputy mayor, what a deputy mayor, the wife of Carlos Gonzalez, what a family. And the contributions that they've done for the city of Newark means a lot. Thank you, Councilman Gonzalez.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Scott Roundtree.
Thank you, Council President. Well, Councilman Gonzalez, I'm going to start off where Councilman Quintana ended. I had the honor of working with the wonderful wife of yours, she was Deputy Mayor of Community Engagement, and I am sure she is pleased with the decision that you have made to enjoy the rest of your life. What I admire and I thank God for on this council is your knowledge as an accountant, your knowledge as a legal representative. And at some point, when I was working for the Booker administration, I think you got your ministry license. And that's true. People don't know that. He actually got a minister's license. So you're a minister, legal, know the numbers kind of guy. And that is such an asset because we all have our specialty up here and what we do, but it is nothing like having somebody that knows numbers, nothing like somebody who knows the law, and nothing like having someone who will ask the necessary questions that you might not be able to ask because you're not knowledgeable on that level. So what I have learned, and to Councilman Kelly's point, we've learned from you. And we do thank God for your service to the city. We thank God for your family that has allowed you to be and shared you with the many residents of the city of Newark. And I am sure the sentiments of this entire council is, even though we don't want to say, see you later, we will see you later, but congratulations for the work that you have done, and may God continue to bless you on the new journey that you're embarking upon when you decide and it's all done. May God bless you and your family as you enjoy the remaining years of your life with your cigars and your hats laying on the beach. God bless you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Day.
Well, first, I want to echo my council colleagues in first congratulating you on deciding to choose yourself, for once, and to be able to enjoy your time with your family. Thank you for your service. And even before I came to work for the city as the Workforce Development Board Director, I remember working with you in the county. And so I've seen you be a public servant for a very long time. I'm not going to take it personally that you're leaving as soon as I got here. So I will not, my feelings are not going to be that hurt, but I'll definitely, wish you well and just thank you for all that you've done for the residents of the city.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Let me just say that.
All right, Councilman.
Don't be too happy. I'll be here until June.
Absolutely.
July 1st.
July 1st.
Officially July 1st, yeah, June 30th.
First.
All right, thank you. So let's move on to the agenda then.
Yes, we have an appointment on page 27 of the agenda. It's an appointment to the Central Planning Board as a Class 4 member, Andre L. Spate. If you're in the audience, please step to the podium.
He is not appearing right now, but if he comes before the end of the,
Certainly. We are on page 3 of the agenda, item 5, reports and recommendations of city officers, boards, and commissions.
any questions from the council? Hearing none, next item.
Ordinances on first reading. 6FA is an ordinance authorizing the First Amendment to the original tax abatement granted to Cathedral Park Associates LP for an affordable housing project located in the North Ward.
Questions from the council? Hearing none, next item.
Public hearing, second reading, and final passage. 6P SFA will be, there's a request from the administration to defer pending the local finance board meeting.
Thank you.
B is an ordinance amending zoning and land use. There's a motion to return this item to the administration.
No, the second one.
Oh, my apologies.
Yeah.
So B, the zoning one is
B is
not
moving
being.
forward. B
B.
is moving forward.
Okay. So there's an ordinance amending Title
Oh,
41.
wait, did I say that backwards? Let me say. You're right, I'm wrong. It's the other way around.
Oh, no worries.
no,
So B will be returned to the administration. C is amending the finance ordinance for prohibiting the use of city funds for fossil fuel.
So just as to note to my colleagues, B is being returned to administration because it has to go before we received legal opinion that it has to go before the zoning board. So we have to do a referral to the zoning board, or planning board, excuse me, a referral to the planning board. Thank you, whoever said that. Referral to the planning board, and then it'll come back to us for us to vote on. But C we move forward with. And I do want to thank the administration, the mayor, the business administrator, and corporation council, so that we can move forward and ban this or prohibit the city from using its funds to promote or to develop additional fossil fuel plants. Next item.
D is an ordinance preventing parking of vehicles on front lawns, sponsored by Councilman Ramos, second by Councilman Gonzalez.
Any questions from the council? Hearing none, next item. I'm sorry, let's go back to 6P SFC. Did you have the sponsors and?
My apologies. This is sponsored by Council President Crump, second by Councilman Council.
Thank you. Any questions on D? Hearing none, next item.
Resolutions. 7R1A is a temporary emergency appropriation for the Broad Street Phase 2 pedestrian safety improvement citywide.
Questions from the council? Yeah, actually, I do have a question on this matter. This is a question regarding, to piggyback on what Councilman Gonzalez would ask about providing traffic devices to help pedestrians cross the street for those who are blind and visually impaired. Can funds from this matter be used for those items? Anybody from, yeah.
Good morning, Council President,
morning.
Council members. Raymond Concepcion, Assistant Director, Department of Engineering. This particular project is extending is on Broad Street, from Emmett all the way to possibly Thomas, maybe South Street. And as part of the scope of work, it will include the APS. So there's going to be signaling upgrades. The APS are the devices for the visually impaired. So it's going to include.
So it will include, okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, it will include them.
Oh, great. Councilman Gonzalez.
Yep. How much does it cost to replace one of those?
Well, in optimal conditions, right? If we already have some signalized section that it does include them, it's about ballpark 5,000. What we're experiencing here in the city of Newark is some of our infrastructures of our traffic signal devices are antiquated. So sometimes when it comes to replace that, it's probably double or triple that amount because we will have to redo conduits, new wiring, possibly even trench across the roadway. So installing new ones in some of the conditions that we currently have is greater. The 5,000 number is if the current infrastructure is current,
Up to date.
up to code, and then that we could just do a replacement. But in some intersection, which is the majority of the city, we don't have that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman, thank you.
You're welcome.
B is an extension of emergency contract for elevator inspections.
Any questions from the council?
Mr. Chair,
Councilman,
I know what we were in the process, I don't know if we were in the process of trying to work with a third party organization to get some inspectors in here around the elevators. Is there any kind of update on where we are with that? Because I know that there are several buildings, specifically even in the South Ward, that needs elevator re-inspection and inspection.
Good morning, Council President, the Council's question. This is in fact an emergency contract that we did an emergency declaration back in October of last year as our elevator subcode retired. And we engaged a third-party agency, which is what it is. This is now an extension from that emergency contract for an additional day to the particular company. And just to give into context, right now, that elevator company, when they have been fully started since November to date, they have inspected 266 devices throughout the city. That's devices. That doesn't mean buildings. It's just some buildings have 2 elevators, 3 elevators, so forth. They've done already 266, and for the month of February, they are anticipated to do an additional 150 inspections. Of course, those inspections have yielded possibly re-inspections because of the condition of the devices, but this is what this is. It's an extension to the emergency contract, and in parallel, we're also working to do a long-term implementation do a proper contract for an extended period of time, while we're also trying to find individuals that we can onboard as inspectors to have it in the city.
Yeah. Did we put in place a plan for urgent, not to say that all are not urgent, but for issues that we know that were pending for a long period of time, did we put in place to make sure that they went back to these locations, 130 Chancellor Avenue, 25 Van Velsa, and made sure that those units were inspected again? Was there a kind of order that was put to this?
When we did the onboarding, that was one of the keys that we did. I could provide you an update on those particular properties and give you an update on that on a separate.
That would be good to
Sure,
know if
will
they
do.
were put in order. Because
Not a problem,
we
will do.
still haven't had anything at 130 Chancellor, 25 Van Velsa, no re-inspections, no one else to come back out. And I know there was other areas that were in need of just regular inspections. So just the height of where they fall in chronological order would be good for us to know.
Will do.
And can you share that list with the whole council too?
Yes, will do.
Thank you. Anything else from the council? No. All right, next item.
C and D are state contracts for the purchase of salt materials.
Questions from the council? Next item.
E is a bid contract for water treating disinfectant.
Questions? Next item.
7R2A through C are private sales. A is for two two-family homes and 1 single-family home to sell at market rate in the Central and South Ward.
Madam Clerk, I believe we're going to, as council as a whole, return this to administration.
Duly noted. B is new construction of 3-family home consisting of 1 owner-occupied unit and 2 units will be rented at market rate in the South Ward.
Yeah, Mr. President, I'd like to defer this item.
Deferred by Councilman. Council, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Scott Roundtree.
Noted. And C is new construction of a mixed-use building with a grocery store in the West Ward.
So let's. The buyer's here, and I believe, well, I don't know if the buyer's here, but I know they spoke last time. I believe the councilman is, all right, Councilman Kelly, we're on 7R2C, the purchase by the manor.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask that this item be deferred.
Okay. Deferred by Councilman Kelly, second by Councilman Quintana. Next item.
D is a professional service, D and E are both professional service contracts for planning consultants.
Questions from the council? Next item.
F is a resolution authorizing reduction in the number of subsidized and designated home-assisted units in the South Ward.
Mr. President, they can come up and give an explanation. I'm clear, but just for them to give an explanation to those folks that may be viewing to get an understanding of what is occurring on South 11th Street, that would be good.
Thank you.
Good morning. Brandy
Morning.
Daniel, Legislative Coordinator for Economic and Housing Development. This item before you is an amendment to a home funds loan for Washington Bay. The original project was supposed to be for 5 owner-occupied home assisted units to be sold and occupied by single-family households earning 51 to 80% of AMI. During the developer's research and trying to get this development done, due to the change in the market and some economic hardships, the developer had to change their project description. So instead of building 5 homes, the developer will now be making 3 units. But it will still be for the same purpose, to be occupied by single-family households earning 51 to 80% of the AMI.
Councilman Council.
Yeah, can you just repeat the AMI again?
51 to 80% of AMI.
A quick question, I guess. So does that change the footprint for each of the 3 buildings? Because it was going to be 5 on those.
I can get that information back to you by the end of business day.
Can you provide us with that information just to
Yes.
confirm? Thank you. Anything else from the council? Next item. Thank you. Next item.
7R3A is application acceptance of grant funds for the 2026 Local Freight Impact Fund Program.
Questions from the council? Hearing none. Next item.
B is a professional service contract for the Central Avenue Bridge over New Jersey Transit City Subway.
Questions from the council? We keep moving this down. Next item.
C is support resolution, supports the preliminary preferred alternative for Route 21 Newark Riverfront pedestrian and bicycle access project.
Let's get an explanation. I believe it's necessary for the study, but if we can get just a brief explanation of what this support resolution will do.
Good morning, Council President. Raymond Concepcion, Assistant Director, Department of Engineering. To the question, this is a pedestrian improvement project that we're working on. It extends from Rush Street down on Park Place, Center Street, all the way down to 21st Street. It's a bike improvement plan, and it also includes the project. Right now, this particular part of it is to go into the design phase of the project so that we can, based on meetings that we have with the local officials and also with public hearings that we had, and now is to move forward the project with the design.
Thank you. Any questions from the council?
And just want to add,
Sorry, go ahead.
the project does include the audible for pedestrian crossing as well.
All right, this is a lot of good stuff for you, Councilman. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next item.
7R4A is establishing the petty cash fund.
Questions from the council? Next item.
B is application to New Jersey Urban Enterprise Zone Authority.
Any questions for Councilman Council?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I do see the CEO
Randolph.
of Invest Newark here. We get an update on, I know we had 2025 UAZ dollars, and I know there were individuals that possibly applied for them, and how did that work, and where are we looking for as we move forward in 2026 with this UEZ?
Good morning, Council President, council members.
Good morning.
Councilman Council, yes, we had a
I'm
number.
sorry, just state your name for the record.
Pardon me, Marcus Randolph, Invest Newark. We had a number of projects that we got approved by the Invest Newark Board and also the council. Those are now moving through for DCA approval. But right now we have gotten Collateral Square, that's done. The Ferry Street Improvement Project, that's partially done. We're waiting for the weather to warm up before the trees can get in there. We got West Ward and South Ward facade program. People are applying for that, and we're actually having to have some open hours to help people become UEZ certified to do that. The Via Transit program is wildly successful. That number keeps going up every weekend. people using that. We had a conversation just last week about getting more assistance from the DCA to get more of our projects through. So that'll include the citywide facade program as well, that I think we brought maybe earlier, or maybe late last year. So we have a number of these projects that are moving through. This year, there'll be another allocation. We're working with all the stakeholders about, how the city wants to use these funds in 26 and 27.
Any other questions from the council? Thank you, Mr. Randolph. Next item.
C is designating bank depositories, adopting the cash management plan.
Questions from the council? Next item.
7R5A is amending resolution to provide Ryan White HIV/AIDS related health and support services.
Any questions from the council? Next item.
B is apply and accept grant funds for the upgrade of the City of Newark's public health emergency preparedness and response capabilities.
Any questions from the council? Next item.
C is an exception to public bidding for the electronic medical record system.
Questions? Next item.
7R6A through G are all professional services contracts for the law department. A is for litigation defense. B is for litigation defense. C is for workers' compensation. D is for labor and employment. E is for litigation defense. F is for workers' compensation. And G is for per diem attorneys in the Newark Municipal Court.
Questions from the council? Hearing none. Next item.
7R8A is a hold harmless for the annual
I'm
mass.
sorry. We have Corporation Council coming up.
Sure, I apologize. Kenyatta Sword City of Newark Corporation Council, just on page 19 and on page 20, the brick burn firm, they have, the people who do the work for us is from Newark. They have a Newark office.
I'm sorry. Can you
I'm
hold
sorry.
the mic up? I'm really having trouble hearing.
Sure, so City of Newark Corporation Council, Kenyatta Stewart. So page 19, 7R6B, and then 7R6C. The address speaks to the White Plains address. The firm has expanded. The people who do our work out of the Newark office. That's the reason why we gave them the opportunity. There are people of color who do the work, and they have an office in Newark. That's what this whole thing was about. I think that's their big office, for lack of better words. But I think it should say the fact that it's a Newark business.
Thank you, because I was going to ask you about that later. All right. Let's go.
7R8A is a hold harmless for the annual mass dedicated to Roberto Clemente, sponsored by Councilman Quintana.
There's a second. Second by Councilman Gonzalez.
Duly noted. B is a hold harmless for the annual Easter egg hunt, sponsored by Councilman Quintana.
I'll second this one. I like Easter egg hunts.
Thank you. And C is a hold harmless for the North Ward Job Fair, sponsored by Councilman Ramos.
Second?
Second.
I don't know who said second. I'm sorry.
Second.
Councilwoman Scott Roundtree.
Thank you. D is an exception to public bidding for the codification of the general and permanent ordinances.
Questions from the council? Next item.
E is an exception to public bidding for the legislative management software.
Any questions from the council? Seeing none, next item.
F is recognizing and commending resolutions, and G is expressing profound sorrow and regret.
Questions from the council? Next item.
7R9A is an appointment of special police officers, all Newark residents.
Questions?
I do have
Councilman Gonzalez.
We have a list that of people that were grandfathered. I just want to know if, let's say, the list of the Newark residents have increased or decreased, and whether the one that for individuals living outside the city, it has continued to decrease as anticipated.
Hi, James George, Captain with the Police Department on behalf of the Department of Public Safety. The list that's before you is all Newark residents. The ones that are grandfathered in is a separate list. It's not growing because it can never grow. It's only people that were grandfathered in before the 2014 amendment.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next item.
Communications. Item 8A is an appointment of Mr. Spate to the Central Planning Board. Is Mr. Spate in the audience yet?
He's not, he said he's on his way, but he's not here.
Let's go to B, which is a reappointment to the Central Planning Board of Mr. Purdy. C is a reappointment to the Newark Housing Authority, Councilman Council.
I want to sponsor that. Is there a second?
Second it.
Well, everybody wants to second that one. I want to say Gonzalez, I heard first, or Kelly, let them find it out.
Thank you.
Council as a whole.
D is a reappointment to the Newark Public Library Board of Trustees of Ms. Cooper.
Any questions? Next item.
E is an ordinance of the Municipal Council of the City of Newark providing for a cap ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank.
I'm sorry. So I know we do this every year, but let's just get Mr. Guzman just to give an explanation.
We spend less than allowed.
Good morning, Council President, council members. Benjamin Guzman, Acting Director of
Good
Finance.
morning, yeah.
As stated here, this ordinance on communication today is able to establish the cap limit on the appropriations for the 2026 budget. Statutorily, a municipality is only permitted to increase it by 2.5% over the prior year's appropriations. We are permitted via ordinance to increase it up to a maximum of 3.5%. What that does is, again, it gives us the municipality the ability to increase their appropriations up to a maximum of 3.5% over the prior years. Doesn't necessarily guarantee that we will increase our budget appropriation by 3.5%. The cap bank portion states that if we don't increase it by that maximum amount that we increase it to, the 3.5%, we're allowed to bank that difference to be able to use in either of the next two succeeding years. So that way, if there is a need to increase an appropriation over a certain amount, we have this bank in order to be able to go and increase the appropriation should the emergency arise.
Thank you. Any questions from Director Guzman? No? Oh. We could go advance and adopt?
Okay, yeah, we could advance, we request if we can to advance and adopt on first reading.
Yeah.
No. All right, we'll advance and adopt.
Duly
Thank you,
noted.
Director. Next item.
F is an ordinance authorizing the city to enter into a 5-year lease agreement with Newark Beth Israel Medical Center for rental of space within city-owned property at the Health Department to provide a food pharmacy.
I'll sponsor.
I'm sorry, you said?
I'll sponsor.
Sponsored by Councilman
Yeah,
Council.
advance and adopt on first.
Second.
Sponsored by Councilman Council, second by Councilwoman Scott Roundtree. And advance and adopt.
Thank you. Item 10, miscellaneous, is the raffle license, 10A.
All right, thank you.
Council President, council members, we have 4 added starters that our Corporation Council will explain to you.
All right, I'm aware of 2.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'll actually do my best to list them all first and then have the appropriate folks come on and give you more details about it. So the first one is in reference to Covenant House. It's EHD matter 26-0121. It's a subrogation agreement. So I'll have Brandy come down and speak to it in a few seconds. Number 2 is to send the fossil fuel ordinance to the Central Planning Board. That number is 26-0122. The third one, the DPW item. That number is, I'm sorry. 26-0137. That's in reference to a contract to shelter or warehouse our DPW snow equipment. We want to do it within the next 90 days. And then, Madam Clerk, I am missing one.
26-0137.
37, that's in reference to.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the number?
26-0137.
Okay.
That's in reference to automotive parts and accessories for light-duty vehicles. So I'll have someone from
That was the
purchasing.
third one.
From the first, excuse me?
Yeah, that was, they just repeated the number for the third one.
Let me do
It
my
was the
numbers
fourth
again.
one.
Let me do my numbers again. I have 26-0137.
26-0137. That was the one, yeah, that was the third one you gave us.
DPW.
I
You said
have
there are four.
26-0122.
You gave us that one?
I have 26-0121.
Yep. You said four. That's three.
And I have
26, it's 0136 and 37.
Oh, 36. What is, I'm sorry, what is 36 then? Because I didn't hear that one.
That's a Sourcewell cooperative contract for procurement. It's also an engineering item. So I have those folks come down to speak to it.
Okay.
So I'll start with EHD, then I'll ask Kareem to come down to speak to the DPW item, and then I'll ask somebody from purchasing to follow up after that.
Thanks, Corporation Counsel. Good morning, Council
Good morning.
President, council members, Allison Ladd, Director of Economic and Housing Development. The two items we have on as potential added starters are, as stated, one is 26-0121, which is the Covenant House of New Jersey. It's a subordination agreement. As this council will recall, you recently approved a sale of the land to Covenant House. And now they're looking for financing. And in order for them to receive their financing, they will need a subordination agreement of the reverter clause. This is something typical. We do this on a regular basis. And the reason for an added starter is that it was advertised for tomorrow's meeting. And we would like to proceed as advertised.
Any questions from the council? Sponsored by Councilman Gonzalez. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Kelly.
Thank you, Council President. The second is the Central Planning Board referral. That's 26-0122, the fossil fuel ordinance. As you mentioned, Council President, at the beginning of the meeting, this item will be referring the ordinance as presented by the Municipal Council to the Central Planning Board. We will move quickly to have the Central Planning Board consider this item and then have it back to council for final consideration. As a note, I have already had our planning director, Paula Vicindi, review the ordinance, so it should be able to move as quickly as possible. We did not want to delay, but we did know we needed to modify the process.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it because I thought it was going to be at the next meeting. So kudos to the administration and yourself.
Oh, we're happy to be supportive.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sorry. There are no questions on. Yeah, we're good. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you.
Good morning, Council President, council members.
Good morning.
The first item is.
I hate to tell you this, but you got to state your name for the record. Even though we know who you
Kareem
are.
Adeem, Interim Director, Department of Public Works.
Thank you.
The first item, 26-0136.
Yes.
Is a cooperative agreement with Sourcewell, right? Sourcewell contract for ClearSpan. They provide prefabricated steel or buildings like we house our salt or some of our DPW equipment in, right? Prefabricated engineering buildings. They come on a truck, put them up in about 30 to 60 days, right? Getting more snow equipment, we need to make sure we're storing this equipment inside, not outside.
Any questions from the council? I'm sorry. Were you finished? I didn't mean to cut you off.
So that's
Councilman
to
Gonzalez.
store the equipment so that if it snows, it's not covered with snow, I suppose.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Councilman Silva.
Director, just a quick question. Is that one location
No,
that will be done in? Is that one location?
No, this is a contract for us when we need to put these things in certain areas of the city, we can put it up.
So I think I brought it to your attention that we have land in the East Ward, privately owned and city-owned. In my opinion, you're the expert on this. Each ward should have its own facility when it comes time to snow removal, because the conversation I had with you before the snowstorm was the people that were cleaning the East Ward were coming from another part of town. And I don't think if we know a storm is coming, that benefits the East Ward or any ward. If we somehow prior to a storm could put these vehicles in a place where they could be utilized better or getting to the snow issues a little better instead of them having to come from somewhere. And then my second question was, just to get off a little bit, is how do we track these third parties that are doing the snow removal for us? How do we track them? How do we know they're actually cleaning the streets?
So two things. One, the first question is, the administration in 2024, we started opening up satellite centers in all 5 wards, right? So some of those satellite centers, we don't have structures at all of them. But most of those satellite centers, they have salt in each one of them. It's about 2 of them that don't. So these prefabricated buildings, we can put up quickly and put salt in other places. Your question about how the vendors check in and then deploy to different areas, our check-in process is how we monitor the vehicles, right? They need to check in. As we get more efficient in that, we'll think about what we talked about, deploying them in different wards. But they need to check in one place first. All the vendor vehicles are GPS, right? They're GPS. For the GPS tracking in the vehicles, we started this when Councilman Council was there, and we continue to do that, even new vendors that come in. And our supervision monitors the streets and stuff that we do, right, with the vendor vehicles. So that was your question.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Ramos.
Yeah, I was going to wait till the end, but since you're here,
Councilman.
And again,
Councilman Ramos.
I appreciate the efforts of the director and his team, and I just think that at some point we should have some kind of debrief on, because there's a lot of moving parts here. Like this morning, I left my location about 7:45. I didn't get to the Hall of Records till almost like 9:15. And, some of these are county roads, right? I reached out to Sanjeev, and, I think at some point we need to sit down with the sheriff's department. We need to identify streets within the city that ahead of a storm like this, like the police division needs to be aggressive about enforcing no parking. We need to identify some hubs beyond schools, because schools are tight, right? Like they open up 2 or 3 days after a storm. They need access to their parking lots. There's got to be church property, other resources that we can redirect residents to park in those lots. But just this morning, driving on Broadway between the 2nd Precinct and 3rd Avenue, there were 19 snow-covered cars. So this means those vehicles have not moved since before the storm. And I guarantee you that a number of those vehicles are connected to like used car dealerships that operate on Broadway, and they park on the street all the time. So, it's really an enforcement issue that impedes your ability with your subcontractors, with other personnel to effectively, plow some of these streets. Mount Prospect is another disaster, right? With the bike lanes, whether they're protected bike lanes or unprotected bike lanes, we got people who park on the bike lane and park next to the bike lane. So a storm like this, again, presents some significant challenges to your team because those streets are not cleared out prior to the storm. So, I pray that this is the last snowstorm of the season, but I'm pretty sure that it won't be the last one that we have to deal with over the next few years. And, we really got to pull some of these folks in that have responsibility to do a better job on their end to make your job easier.
So
That's my 2 cents.
What the plan was is to have a discussion at the end of the meeting.
Yeah, okay.
Everything.
I walked in
So
late
don't-
because somebody
that's
from
okay.
engineering was parked in my spot, so.
No, yeah, we know how that goes. Trust me, I understand. So if it's okay with the council and with the director, after we finish everything, we'll have a discussion with the director. Is that all right? And so back to on snow, but go ahead.
I'm out of here after this, but
Yes.
the next I had to start it.
Yep, go ahead.
The 260137.
Yeah.
It's a vendor that we buy, that repairs our snow equipment and that we buy parts from to repair stuff in-house.
Very good. Any questions from the council? All right, thank you, Director. Don't go too far.
Yeah, I had another non-snow question, and I don't know if folks, it's not related to you, Kareem. Folks from UEZ left. I wanted to ask through your chair and the clerk, I received some inquiries from some of our small businesses about this facade program that supposedly is only being piloted in 2 wards. So I think some of our North Ward businesses are asking, they reach out to Deputy Mayor Ladd. They use UEZ funds for this program. So I'm hopeful that, it's available to anybody that's eligible to receive support for that program. So
Yeah. So
just a question through your chair. Maybe they could answer it prior to tomorrow's meeting.
let's see if we can get that answer. All right.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilman.
Prior to Councilman Ramos coming, Executive Director Randolph did speak about the program around the facade usage, and that they were working in the South, some in the West, and also in the North, and they're trying to get more people to get engaged in it. And so I think it's probably important that they send out the information so that everyone know that collectively.
I think whatever's out there just restricts it to the South and West right now. So I have some Bloomfield Avenue and Park Avenue businesses that are asking.
Yeah, let's get clarification on that. Thank you.
Certainly. Public comment?
Yep.
We are in the 30-minute public comment portion of this meeting where each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name for the record. Is there anyone wishing to address the council?
Kerry McDougald, Gonzalez, I'm gonna miss you, baby. You had all the good questions. I'm gonna miss that insight. I think we're gonna have a film guy coming up there, since though we got a film place coming up in here, but that's just me quick thinking. Good morning, council president, council members.
Good morning.
I want to begin with a quote from James Baldwin, who said, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced." That quote matters because there are things happening in Newark every day that are easy to overlook precisely because they happen quietly. Here's one example. In Newark, many workers follow the same routine every day. Construction sites, warehouses, home care jobs. Same shifts, same bus stop, same route. One day, they don't show up. A job site is short-staffed. A family loses income overnight. A senior who relied on home care worker suddenly has no help. Children come home from school asking why a parent isn't answering the phone. No violent crime occurred. No immediate public safety threat was resolved, but a household and sometimes an entire support network was destabilized. This matters because when most people hear ICE, they assume enforcement is focused primarily on dangerous individuals. In reality, enforcement often prioritizes predictability, people who are working, housed, documented in systems and easy to locate. ICE does not operate alone. It relies on advanced data platforms that connect addresses, employment records, court data, and family ties. Much of that software is built by Palantir, a private firm paid millions to make enforcement more efficient. Here's the point that deserves this council's attention. Public pension funds in New Jersey, including funds supported by public workers, are invested in Palantir through the New Jersey Pension Fund. Now, somebody go to Mikey Sherrill and figure out what's going on, because how we fighting ICE and then paying for ICE at the same time? I'm gonna come back and speak more about that. But I just wanted you to know I'm up on that. I'm gonna miss you, my boy. I'm gonna miss you. The insight, the intellect, to know to ask questions. Yeah, Granddaddy's doing pretty good. He's getting better. You know, some people had threw the dirt on him before he was even out the hospital. But, you know, that fighting spirit, continuing to fight. And I want you on top of this on your last time here, because you know the numbers. Find out why this is happening. Because it's not supposed to be happening, Gonzalez. We can't talk out of both sides of our face.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
Manira El Boumani. You know why you got the name Failed Leadership? No other way to describe you? Failed leadership, failed elections. No other way to describe you. This is the worst administration and municipal council in the history of this city. Go ahead, somebody say it's not. Say it ain't. The worst administration and municipal council in the history of this city. One resigning, and I hope some more to go. That's all I can say. Thank you for resigning. Thank you for stepping down after 20 years of nothingness. $4.5 million for elevators, still broken down. 6.6 million, almost 7 million for snow removal, and you haven't even gotten a clue from the last administration under what's this guy here, council. Every year, the snow removal is a failure, grade F. But you got a plan to go against the Democrats, the Republicans and Trump. That's your only plan, is to attack. But you don't have a plan to address the housing crisis, the homeless crisis, the snow removal, the elevators, all the millions, almost $1 billion to address homeless. And you still haven't even scratched the surface. An eviction tsunami that's going on, and you don't even have a plan to address the evictions. Fudge crime reports, fudge housing reports, fudge everything. And I hope you didn't just sit there and listen to Kareem, whatever his name is, about the tracking and all this bull crap. He come up here with the bull crap talking, job talking. You just had to sit there and just look back yourself, Silver. And thank you for putting in some work to get that snow up in East Ward. Because North Ward didn't even follow suit with you. Snow piled up to the sky all over the streets in North Ward.
Thank you for your comments.
Failed
Next
leadership.
speaker. No other speakers appearing. Public speaking is now closed. One of the things we talked about doing is to have Mr. Director Redeem come up and just give a little debriefing on the snow removal and what occurred over the last week. Director, and then any questions from the council?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. One, before the director comes up, I think it's important that they break down the stages, because so many times we just hear snow removal, right? And there's different processes in this. And I think we really have to begin to understand it, right? There's a pushing process, there's a removal process. And there's certain times where these things begin to happen. So if he can break down both of them to begin to give some understanding, and then ultimately to understand that people's frustration about not being able to move around and what happens really identifies with the fact is they really don't care what the situation is. They just don't want the snow in front of their property. But the city's responsibility to make sure that the streets are clear and clean for passage and movement, because ultimately there was a lot of different factors that was happening, that was going on. And until we really begin to address this holistically as a community, not out of emotion, but out of strategy and system, from making sure in front of our houses are clean, from making sure that we understand the proper way to shovel and move snow to our sidewalks, from in front of us to in back of us, and then to ensure that they have proper passage to clear some of these streets and things up. I was involved in a fire on Seymour Avenue where cars didn't want to move, and people were throwing snow back in the street. And at the same time, the fire department is running in to try to get a family out of all of these houses. There was 9 families affected in one home and 7 in another one. So some of these things are very serious. And I know there's a lot of people that can be cynical about all of this other stuff, but people that are getting caught in fires, they don't have the opportunity to be cynical. They need to be saved. So we really have to begin to put our arms around this and recognize that all of us share levels of accountability to make sure that our community, our streets, in these instances are handled and taken care of appropriately. Even some of these bad landlords who don't show up to clean up in front of their properties, we have to begin to look at what that means in terms of assessing higher fines, higher penalties to some of these landlords who may not live here, but wherever they are, their properties may be clean, but in front of other properties may not. And so, we really have to really be laser focused on how we, attempt to deal with this.
Mr. President.
Councilman Ramos.
Yeah, and again, I want to commend Kareem and his team, and Pat, Mike and I were at the OEM on Sunday. We know how hard they worked. We appreciate the folks on the county side that talk to Sanjeev almost daily. But just 2 quick points again on my end is that in preparation for a storm like this, we need law enforcement's help to enforce like no parking on certain corridors in order to enable our DPW crews to do their job. I think if we allow people to park on some of these major corridors on a storm like this, you're going to see a situation like what I saw this morning, where you had close to 20 vehicles that have been snowed in since prior to the storm, and in a major thoroughfare like Broadway. We have the same problem on Springfield Avenue, Bloomfield Avenue, where cars were not removed. And as a result of that, you went from 3 lanes to 1 lane, and it just creates chaos and traffic. And I'm hopeful that we can do a better job of designating these no parking areas in every ward of the city, and then getting local police and the sheriff's department to pitch in to enforce the no parking prior to the storm. To enforce no parking during the storm, it's chaotic and not reasonable. And like Councilman Council, we had 3 fires in the North Ward over the last 7 days. The night of the storm on Wakeman Avenue, we had 5 properties that were impacted as a result of the fire. And talking to the crews from the fire division, they had a difficult time accessing that street because it's a very narrow street. Thankfully, no one was hurt. But these were row houses where the fire spread rather quickly, and we had like 32 people that were displaced as a result of that fire. So, I just, again, moving forward, maybe pulling together all the potential stakeholders, identifying parking options for residents beyond schools, because I know the schools are limited in the amount of property that they could offer us for parking, whether it's churches, some of these abandoned properties that are looking to be developed in the future that could provide surface lot parking. We have assets in every ward that I think we can lock in to allow our residents to park. And I know some people are concerned about liability, right? Because that's one of the things we get back as well. What if somebody gets hurt and we allow them to park on our property, which is a valid concern. So, figuring out ways to address some of those issues that property owners may have if they allow us to encourage residents to park on their property. So, but again, I was there that Sunday. That I know the city was meeting, they were planning. County did a very good job as well. But this was a very challenging storm, and the weather that came after the storm made it even worse. I mean, it's like a giant iceberg out there on our streets. So.
Definitely. Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Quintana.
Yeah, just observing. Thank you, Director Kareem. You and I had a conversation prior during the storm. What happens is we got to register all these companies to come, and we need to know who they are and hold them accountable, because what they do is they come, clean a lot, and they bring it right to the street. The driveway, they bring it right to the street. And it creates a problem. And they'll do a nice, beautiful job on a parking lot, but they put the snow right on the street. So if you talk about properties that have lots, like senior housing, Board of Education that use private companies, we need to make sure, Keisha, that we find some way to get an ordinance ready that they would have to register with the city of Newark, knowing who they are. Because what they do is they plow the snow, and just keep going to the next stop. And it creates a problem. New Jersey Transit, with the bus shelters, people were on top of a mountain trying to get to the senior buildings too, throughout the city. In front of Villa Victoria, people couldn't get out of because it was just horrible. So whoever companies they're working with, they need to say, look, take that snow out. In terms of the bus shelters, in terms of the police department, back in the early 90s, the police department was deployed to be out in the different sectors, deploying traffic out of the city. There was such traffic all over the city. We need to do better with the traffic, people coming in and out. I know the snow was an issue, but traffic was just horrible. And moving forward, the storms are not as easy as people think. They cost a lot of resources. And, everyone says, well, my house should be clean. But we also have to put our part to it too. And make sure that we tell people, I called you up. I got into an argument with a guy on the street, and he was just cleaning the snow and throwing it on the street. And he said, call the police. And, it's just, the guy said, look, and I was like really trying to be nice to the gentleman, but he was just upset. Said, where do you want me to put it? I said, put it in the back of the car. But again, these are issues that we have to, and we also bring, as Councilman Ramos said, bring everyone together. The Housing Authority, the Board of Education, NJIT, Rutgers, all these institutions got to come and have a plan. And they have to submit a plan to the city of Newark. How are they going to dispose of snow? How are they going to get rid of it? And who are their vendors?
Thank you, Councilman. I'll just add I agree with particularly the traffic on Thursday with the Devils game. It was like a perfect storm. It was between the Devils game and snow removal and the snow that was built up. I had someone say that it took them over 2 hours to get from Audible, which is Washington Park, to Hill Street because of the traffic. And maybe there's a situation when things like that happen where we can have more of the traffic officers out to help control that traffic, because it was unfortunate. It's not something that happens regularly. We normally do have traffic officials out there, but it just seemed like it was for situations like that where it seems like everything is happening at once. Rush hour, the normal rush hour, the Devils game, removal of snow, the piles of snow elsewhere. It was just like I said, on lack of a better term, a perfect storm for what occurred. So that may be something to add to the pile or suggestions that we have for city council, from the city council to the administration. Councilwoman's come around. Do you have, oh no, Councilman Silva?
Just thank you to Director Redeem, because they're removing piles of snow that we made in the East Ward. I was able to secure a few parking lots, and I want to thank those business owners to allow us to store a lot of that snow. I can't believe how much snow we put in there, but we've put large amounts of snow in those lots. And again, Director Redeem, this wasn't an easy storm, like my council colleagues said. I have never seen, been living here for over half a century, how cold it's been for consecutive days in a row. I had never seen that before, especially after a snowstorm, which made the job obviously a lot more difficult. You know, the snow, the ice, the weather, the combination just made everything more difficult. But I do agree with what my council colleague says. And I'll say it, the Board of Ed needs to do a better job. I had to go ask a business owner for a favor to clean Eastside High School because the principal and his staff couldn't get into the school. The Board of Ed needs to step up and do schools in the city. They have a responsibility to make sure that their students don't have to climb over mountains or have to go around 2 blocks to get into the school. They need to do a better job. And I know, I believe Councilman Quintana mentioned transit. Transit as well, the bus stops. You know, we're starting to do the work of all these entities, and then our constituents end up suffering because we can't hit some of the streets or there's still snow on certain streets. They have to take accountability. They have large budgets as well, and they have to take some responsibility. Now, what I did see driving around for hours and hours and hours, again, and I ask that on a day like this, that code enforcement comes in full force, is what Councilman Quintana was saying. People putting their snow in the street, parking lots, people cleaning out their private businesses and putting the snow out in the street. Those people need to be fined. There's piles on corners in the East Ward. I don't even know how they got there. But we need to start holding other entities in this city accountable because we shouldn't be doing all this work. And it affects our constituents and affects the streets. A lot of times, I'm getting complaints from residents that snow, and it's not the snow or DPW, it was individuals that created this problem. And I have no problem in the East Ward, code enforcement going out, Newark Police going out and enforcing these laws that are in place. But again, like Councilman Ramos said, I think we should have some type of briefing with all the parties before we know this is happening so we can be prepared better. We were up at the community, we drove through the storm, Councilman Ramos and I was very impressed with the operation. But we need to get more of these entities that I mentioned involved in helping us with this snow removal, especially the schools. There's no reason why they should be calling my office to remove and help the schools when they have a larger budget than the city of Newark does. They need to have a plan in place. We had Ant Street Playground available for parking, school closed Monday and Tuesday, and they wouldn't let us use the parking lot till after 2 p.m. on Monday. So anybody who parked there only had a few hours. That doesn't make sense. These entities have to work with the city. We have to come up with better agreements. We have to do better during these storms. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Day, excuse me.
No, definitely, I agree with Councilman Silva as far as making sure that everyone does their fair share. And I also agree with Councilman Ramos in reference to us having a briefing and coming together and putting a plan together. I do want to thank Director Adim and his team for being so responsive because, you know, my team and I, we're fielding calls from community left and right, different things happening because the city gets blamed for everything. If there's snow and ice in front of businesses and people aren't doing their share, and we talked about transit and property owners who don't live here and they're not taking care of things, everything gets put on the city. And so we need to make sure that everyone does their fair share and takes responsibility for what is theirs. But I definitely want to thank Director Adine, because every time we reached out to DPW, his team they were on it. They were really very responsive to community concerns and the constituent issues. And I just wanted to thank him for that.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Scott Roundtree.
Yes, I too want to start out with thanking Kareem Medine. Thank you, Council President, for the work they did. I believe, Councilman Council, it was 1996 that we had one of the largest snowstorms that we've had in a long time. We've had one recently, maybe 2016, that was just a little bit more than this. It's an act of God. It's not like we have control. Newark is one of the largest cities and is the largest municipality in the state of New Jersey. So I hear the constituents, but I also hear the administration, because some of the towns that were calling us saying that Newark is not doing their job, those towns you could put inside Newark 5 times. So they didn't have as much snow to clean. So if someone called and said, "Oh, why are you not doing what Harrison is doing?" We can't do what Harrison is doing because we have over 800 streets, if not more, that have to be plowed. So yes, to all of my council colleagues' point, great ideas, come together, be prepared. The meteorologist is the only one that can give you some information and be wrong and still keep their job. So they can tell us 4 inches and we get 12. So you might prepare for 7 and end up with 5 more inches. And as Councilman Silver said, with the ice and the cold, if you don't move that snow immediately, I mean like immediately after, if you have a 24-hour snowstorm, by the time you take up half of it, you got another 6 inches. So I understand the operation. We've sat at 480 Clinton Avenue. I didn't sit this time, but I've been there for some of the worst storms. So I really have to commend you. And to our residents' point, we got to do our best to do better the next time, because we can always do better. And thank you for your comments, and thank you for your concern and your calls. But until you sat in the seat of the director and the people that have to go out there with those trucks and move this snow and hear the complaints after it is 2 degrees, 2 below on top of the snow, it can be an issue. So yes, we can do better. And I got to thank you, because every time you got a phone call about a problem while you were already doing a job, you addressed it. Your people addressed it. So whatever we can do to come together, Councilman Silva, Councilman Gonzalez, Councilman Bay, Councilman Council, whatever we can do to come together for the next. When it comes to an act of God, you can't really do with so much planning. So thank you for the great planning that you did. And thank you for the teams that sat at 480 and monitored. There were people monitoring every 15 minutes, 20 minutes of what was happening. And a lot of people don't know the work that's done behind the scenes. Nobody's sitting at home because they can't get out. There are people that were actually finding a way to get to OEM or trying to find a way to get to the emergency station on that morning, Sunday morning, so that they can monitor and track. And you don't see that. You don't know who's sitting at the table saying like, "Oh my God," because we're not on Facebook. We're not calling RLS. Channel 12 News not covering that. They're not following the team in the trucks. All they see is the results that they don't think that we have handled the way that we should handle it. So thank you, community. Thank you, City of Newark. And thank you, Adine, for doing the best and the greatest job that you could have done in the midst of this snowstorm. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Kelly.
Thank you, Council President. This snowstorm is really caused a lot of problems for our residents, for our workers, our city. Director, I think that you always do a great job in everything that you get involved in. Just from my experience, I remember it was something that I reached out to you. Well, I didn't reach out to you. I reached out to one of your workers about it. Might have been something in sanitation, and it didn't get done. And you said, make sure that I call you. And I reached out to you for the snow, but I don't have the same experience as my other colleagues. Like I don't feel like I got the same response. I'm not saying that you didn't do the work because I live in the West, so I see some of those streets all plowed and things of that nature. I think it was just the kind of individual things that we needed help with. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you didn't do or send a crew to do the job. But I think we need to find a better process for helping our seniors out. I've gotten a lot of calls of snow removal in driveways and cars. I'm glad that Councilman Council said that there's a difference between pushing and removal. I think one of my questions is, are we doing removal in the West Ward? And if we're doing, or are we just pushing in the West Ward? And if we're doing removal in the West Ward, where is that happening at? Where is that? Where is it going? The reason why I asked that, because I have several calls from seniors trapped in the West Ward, and some of the blocks are still, really can't navigate through. And with that, I had to form my own crew. I put my own crew together of a team of about 20 young people, and they went around actually shoveling seniors out, shoveling driveways out. That's because I felt like the calls were urgent, and I know, and it doesn't mean that it wouldn't have been responded to. I just think that it was urgent enough that that type of action had to take place because of the type of snowstorm it was, the blizzard that it was, that we were everywhere else all over the city. And so we did that. But I wanted to know if there's a certain process when we hire these third-party companies to come in and shovel our snow. Are they removing? Are they just pushing? And if they're just pushing, they're blocking cars in. Is there a second passage or a process that we have these drivers or these companies coming in to, is there a process or vehicles or machinery that doesn't allow them to block the cars? Or if they do a second passageway, does it clean the driveway? I've seen in some other cities where they actually have machinery that shovels, push, and then skips the driveway. Clears the path of the driveway. So these are mainly questions for our disabled. These are mainly questions for our seniors. And, I really, like I said, I had to bring in my own crew to help out those people in the West Ward. So, and then, like I said, it doesn't say that you weren't doing your job, but I don't have the same experience as the other council members. So, I believe that we really do need to sit down, like Councilman Silva said before, when we know these storms are coming, in partnership with the county, like Councilman Ramos has said as well, because then we can really discuss hot spots and areas. Up in the Upper Vailsburg section, we have a lot of narrow streets, and I know you know this, Director, too, because you live there. A lot of these streets are very hard to maneuver through, and I'm still getting calls today, and I'm sure all of us are, but it's just starting to get frustrated. I seen 3 accidents today. I got a call from Mount Vernon School this morning on my way into the council meeting about 3 teachers with 3 accidents. So it's very frustrating, and it's more frustrating when it doesn't seem like the snow is being removed and it's only being pushed to be piled up or block a car in or block a driveway in. So I would love to have that same experience as the other council members up here, but that just hasn't been my experience this go around.
Thank you, Councilman. I believe, Director, you want to come up? As you do come up, though, let me say, okay, well, let me say to Director Adim, I know you stood up, Mr. BA, but I will say, although you've heard a number of challenges, I just wanted to be clear also that from the council, you heard a number of us talk about the appreciation of the work that you do and what you did. So I think that's important. We don't come up here just to, well, I want to thank you for the work that you did too. Mr. B.A.
Good morning, Eric Pennington, Business Administrator. I appreciate that final comment of you want to lay out the appreciation first. However, it's an appreciation, and I understand that the primary job when there's a snow event of more than 2 inches is to plow the snow, to clear the roadways on the primary streets, then the secondary streets, and then the tertiary streets. That is, we want to get to blacktop, at least 1 to 2 lanes on the major roads so the traffic can get through. I think DPW and the city did an extraordinary job in that regard of getting to blacktop. Sounds like many of the problems that the council has raised are with respect to snow removal. It is almost impossible for there to be a snow removal when our residents and others don't move their cars. It is also impossible to have snow removal when the residents and business owners move the snow and dump it back into the street. It is illegal, it is dangerous, and it makes it extraordinarily more difficult for our DPW and third-party vendors to do the work that they are tasked to do. The third thing I will say, and it was raised here, is that in this event, in most snow events, we rely on the weather to help us, because typically 1 or 2 days after a snow event, or even during a snow event, the temperature rises above 32 degrees and it helps the snow melt. This is an extraordinary time where we've had over 11 days in a row where the temperature never broke the 32-degree mark, where the temperature froze. I think Reverend Roundtree indicated that that's an act of God. There is nothing we can do about that. All we can do in that regard is to ensure that our residents help us. It is illegal for any car to be parked on a snow-covered street during a snow event. They have to move their cars. We don't have enough snow trucks, police, or others to make sure that every car is moved. I think we did an extraordinary job again in making sure that our ambulances, fire trucks, and police could get through to deal with emergencies. Absolutely, we could do more, particularly if we had an unlimited budget, which we do not have. We need the help of our residents. We need the help of the council members to identify areas where individuals can park. If you know where they can park and you can get us that information, we will push that out. We'll get out there and get that done. Councilman Silver, I'm looking at him now, indicated that he had a crew of people who moved snow into piles, and then we came and removed the snow. So we worked together to get that done. I thought it was pretty successful in that regard. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that this is a cooperative effort, cooperation from the city, business owners, residents, and others to get the job done. We will continue to try and have a removal effort, and I'll ask Director Deem to speak to that. And what we have to do, perhaps we can do a better job of identifying the streets that we are working on plowing out so folks can move their cars. But to Councilman Kelly's point, cars are snowed in. That is not our fault. The issue is we have to plow the snow. When we plow the snow, driveways are going to be plowed in. We need the help of residents to remove that snow onto lawns, onto the median between the sidewalk and the street, onto other areas that are not out into the street. That's what we need the residents to do, and they have to cooperate. We don't have the equipment that they have in Ontario, Canada, in Schenectady, Pennsylvania. I don't know where Schenectady is, in those cold weather areas where they have machines where they come out with humongous snow blowers where they are followed by 18-wheel trucks, and they move that, and they have some devices where they have arms that can go down and remove snow from driveways. We don't have that. And we do not shovel out driveways. We don't. That's not a service that we can provide. It's not something that we can offer here. So we need help in that regard. Again, I want to end with just saying that it's a cooperative event. This was an 11-inch snowstorm. We don't get those that often. Relatively speaking, clearing out the primary and secondary streets, I think we did a great job. There's more work to be done. We are praying for warmer weather that will help us. In the meantime, we need our residents to help us too, and they got to shovel their own cars out. That is the bottom line. I'll answer some questions, but I'll certainly turn it over to Mr. Adim to address it.
Councilman Kelly.
Thank you, BA. I think mine was more of asking, is there a process in place? I've been in this city my entire life, so I've been through all of those big snowstorms. And I do understand that when a plow comes through, it blocks the cars in. That's not my question about how do we get, the cars out. I'm just saying in regards to our disabled and our seniors, do we have a plan in place? I know that they called DPW, but it's an emergency, right? So it's a lot of things going on that they probably don't get through. So is there a process in place that we can help our seniors, even though we don't technically clear driveways or we don't clear their vehicle when it's trapped because of the plow? Do we have a process, or they have to fend for themselves? So this is why I formulated a crew at the time, because I didn't know of anything and I couldn't reach anybody. So I just made a 20-man crew myself that actually went around the West Ward of the calls and the complaints that I personally got. And this is what we did. Like I said, I think that the director always does an amazing job at the things that he does, and I think that the city did too. But that just hasn't been my experience this go around when it comes to specifically helping certain individuals. And as you said, we don't do that, right? We don't get block cars out. We don't clear driveways. But should we, or is there a plan when it comes to our elders? Shouldn't we be able to help them?
Yes, to that point, Councilman Kelly, let me answer your first question first. Is there a plan? Yes, there's a plan. I tried to articulate it as briefly as I could in the beginning, and that is, in the first instance, to clear out the primary routes, those emergency routes, the major thoroughfares, so that folks can get through. We do that. Then we go to the secondary roads and the tertiary roads to get those open to allow vehicles to come through as well. With respect to emergencies, we will absolutely do everything we can to assist in the emergency situation with respect to an elderly person who has an issue and needs to get help. Some of the things, for example, if they have medical equipment and medical devices, there is information that needs to get to Public Service Electric and Gas Company to make sure that they are on notice if their power goes down, for example. Those communications are available in advance. If there was an individual who had to get out of their house, we would have our fire department go and get them out of the house for some medical emergency. No question about that. We have done that. That has been something that we do. We have engaged Minutemen, mostly with trucks and plows, to assist on the smaller streets. And we discussed having Minutemen with shovels. I believe we engaged some of them as well, but that was mostly to shovel access ramps, ADA ramps, to get through curbs and streets. If there, again, was a medical emergency and we had to get a senior to a location, we could certainly use those Minutemen to engage to help get them out. But in the first instance, that's done by police, fire, and EMS. And we are on top of that and do that. If you're talking about shoveling out someone's driveway or their car, that is typically not something that we do. But again, if there's an emergency, particularly if there's a life hazard issue involved, we'll address it. And that will become a priority.
All right, thank you, Mr. BA.
Would you like to hear from Director Dean with respect to answering other questions and
Sure.
specifics? Because it sounded like there were some specific issues, lack of communication, and whether or not.
And there may be some information that Director Adim may want to provide.
Sure.
Thank you.
Council President,
Morning, Director.
Council members, Kareem Adim, Interim Director, Department of Public Works. Just to give a little clarity, a little more clarity on what the BA said, our primary focus during any type of snow event is a pushing event. You push the snow. You push until the snow stops. When the snow stops, you start a salting process, right? You start salting the streets. Unfortunately, This wasn't just a snow event. This was a snow event that stopped and came into a ice storm on top of the snow, right? The last time we had one of these was 2018, and the city was gridlocked, right, for about 24 hours. All the highways was gridlocked.
That's right.
So a lot of us forget this, right? It was a small snowstorm and an ice storm came. I do agree, right, with Councilman Ramos and the BA about, working more with public safety in the county and getting some of the snow-covered roads removed. Our main focus is push, 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 right? And we're clearing the main arteries, the main corridors to get those open. And the purpose of getting those open, we want to make sure that the fire department, the police department, and the ambulance can get through these streets. So you always see us focusing on those main corridors, right? What we also don't realize, we're dealing with 4 fires during that time, not just 3, 4, right? In the North Ward and in the South Ward. So our focus is, right, we need to respond to make sure the fire trucks can get through, right? Double parking, everybody know parking is huge in the city, right? Throwing the snow back in the street is huge. I'm not gonna make excuses. When we start going to the secondary and tertiary streets, our thing is, like the BA said, to get to blacktop, right? Our vendors are there to push and salt the streets, push and salt the streets, push and salt the streets. Temperatures went as low as below 7 degrees in the first 3 days after the snow event. Most of us don't know that, but it did. But our DPW crews are working 24, 72 hours, right? When we get fatigue starts setting in. My job is to make sure I'm protecting those men and women that's out there working for DPW, to make sure fatigue don't set in when we get a fatality. We got to shut them down. Our vendors come in and we start monitoring them. This storm is unusual because, when you look at the tri-state area that experienced the ice storm, no, not even New York, Jersey City, or Bayonne, or some of the close cities were able to have a passable city within 24 hours. Brian Lair said it, not me. Brian Lair, Friday on NPR, that Newark, New Jersey was 95% passable 24 hours after the storm. And he explained what that means. It means you can drive through the roads. I worked, most of your council, I live in the West Ward. I love where I live at. I'm doing my job, right? My biggest obstacle, and I happened to run into the mayor, because our mayor was out there, right? Not some of the councilmen was out there, but our mayor was out there, was to see how our residents throw snow back into the street and then call and say, we didn't come through your street. That's a problem. I've been through, as a little kid, I lived the blizzard of 1982, right? I lived the blizzard of 1986, working here in the city, right? When we all had to come to work, when we still had to come to work. I lived, the 2015 blizzard with Pat Council, 29 inches. I lived the 2018, the 2021. This was a different type of a storm only because of the ice storm, the ice and the temperatures. Normally 10 inches, city opened back up. So after we do the main roads and get the roads open, our next thing is to ensure that the firehouses are free of snow so the fire trucks can get out. Can you imagine that if we didn't focus on the main roads and then making sure we cleared around the firehouses and the police stations so our public safety team can get out? Then we got to go around the hospitals to make sure we got access around the hospitals and the dialysis centers. All that information that you may not know that we have, because we got to make sure these places are clean. And the shelters. Our next thing is, after we get that under control, we start looking at, we want schools to open, so we got to start pivoting to try to clean around the schools as much as we can to what the access we have at that current time. It's important, right? To make sure right? It may not be a 100% job at every school, but we need to make sure that we do a good enough job with the access that's available to clear around the schools. That's important. Then after we clean around the schools and the dialysis centers, we're going to pivot into the employee parking lots that's owned, the employee parking lots and the public buildings that the city owns. A lot of the calls that we get, it's not a DPW related incident. Hey, after working about 78 hours, I still had to go home because nobody cleared my snow. I live on Kerrigan, by the way. My street was okay, but nobody cleared my snow. I had to shovel my wife's car out. and bring my boys out to show, right? Pushing into the obstacles that we face, and we always face these, and, you know, every director probably face these, is pushing the snow back into the street. We, you know, running across, I understand the residents do it, but the vendors that do it. We had a huge issue on Broadway, huge issue on Elizabeth Avenue, huge issue on Washington Street, University Street. Look, we do meet in OEM. Pre-storm, we have a pre-storm meeting. We meet with Essex County, all the hospitals, all the colleges, EMS, right, Port Authority, everyone's there. Everybody has a plan until the event happens, right? Everybody has a plan until the event happens, right? Or Mike Tyson said, until you get punched in the face.
That's right.
Right? Sometime with your plan, you do need to pivot. You pivot on the conditions that's available to you at that time. And that's what we do. We continue to do. A snow removal operation happens on the main corridors first. The snow removal operation happens on those main corridors because we continue after the plows come through to try to widen them as much as we can. And then we start obsessing the city and start moving snow in areas that we can move snow in the main corridors to widen them up. A snow removal operation is not every block. It's not intended to be every block, right? We do understand, like what Councilman Silver did, and there was a couple of other councilmen throughout the city, right, that you have vendors or you have volunteers that came in with equipment, backhoes or whatever, and they stacked snow and they moved snow and they came and did something for some of your residents that may were blocked in. And listen, we coordinated with them to put the snow somewhere, right? And some of that stuff we removed, not all of it. Some of the stuff we removed, but not all of it, because it's not a snow removal event. It's not citywide. In addition, you know, employee fatigue, dealing with 3 flyers. We had 2 water main breaks, right? Our job is to make sure that the water department can get to those water main breaks and fix those things during sub-zero conditions to make sure people have heat. Water main break, when it breaks, it's already below 7 degrees. We need to repair the water main breaks to make sure they got heat back in the house. No water, no heat. DPW's job is not just only snow plowing, salting, and snow removal. We had to deal with 2 City Hall flooding. Several pipes broke in City Hall that flooded this building. Most of you may or may not know. I think the council know, right? Because it started up in your area, right? On both sides of City Hall. We're still doing that. Our continuing effort to work for this administration to go out and do what we did in the storm, our expectations sometimes are unrealistic to what we expect to do versus what we actually know what we're doing until you go out there. A lot of times you need to be out in the streets to see what's actually going on. And I commend everybody that comes out and see what's going on, how we're moving snow, making stuff accessible, right? But we don't, like the BA said, we don't come and shovel driveways out. We don't. We've never did it since I've been here. I've always seen the nonprofit organizations or the volunteers that come out and help do those stuff things on the community block or watch associations. Our thing is to make the streets passable and very open for our emergency vehicles and residents to get through in case they go to school. But I just want to clarify, a lot of those organizations, my council colleagues, they do meet with us before the storm and during the storm at 480. Yes, we still have an ongoing removal. So the ongoing removal, we're right, the ongoing removal process, we'll be posting a list, right? And we'll send it to all the councilmen on the areas that we're going to continue to remove snow.
And just with that, Director Adim, you also posted on the city website too,
In the
right?
city website. That doesn't mean everybody's street. I think we have this misconception that I'm going to go in every street and remove snow. But it's just some areas that's designated that snow needs to be removed. Right? And then the other thing I think Councilman Silver and the BA talked about, we don't have places to store all the snow. But it was great that we had the 2 lots in your area, right, to put that in and some over here. But we do identify areas where we put snow in. So the ongoing snow removal hasn't ceased. We just need to get a grip on what we're doing to make sure that fatigue's not setting in and we start responding or wasting our resources on things that we don't need to and getting the biggest bang for our buck. It's expensive to remove snow.
All right. Director Dean, thank you so much. Anything? I can't even see him, but I hear him tapping. Councilman Kelly.
Thank you for that, Director. With the list of the streets that you're going to send to council, can you send the list of the nonprofits that actually help do those things that you guys don't do, that you said you meet with?
I don't have the list of the nonprofits. I'm saying through my history in town, I've seen the nonprofits come out and help work with different council members to get things done. I don't have a list myself.
So we don't know who those nonprofits are. You're just saying that.
I know UVSO helps sometimes. I can tell you that in our area, UVSO comes out to help.
Okay.
They all provide services.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments from the council? Thank you again, Director Dean, for the work that you and your team do. We really appreciate it. All right, last word from the BA.
Yep, this is the last word. It has nothing to do with snow. Actually, I just want to take 30 seconds, point of personal privilege, particularly before Councilman Quintana Ramos leave, to let folks know that even though I'm on this side, and oftentimes it may look like I have an adversarial relationship with the council, I just wanted to congratulate Councilman Gonzalez, who I've known for 35 years. He and I were classmates in law school. We fight up here, but we never fought back then. And he has been a true friend and an outstanding colleague. He's raised issues that we have to address. He makes me work harder, think harder, and make sure that I'm in a better position to provide good service to the residents and make sure that I address issues that the council needs to know about. He's been a staunch advocate. I will miss him. And I hope that we have an opportunity to continue our friendship as he moves on to the next chapter of his life. He's a great man. So thank you.
All right, with that being said, all right. I think that's it, right? There's nothing else, Madam Clerk? All right, everybody, have a wonderful day tomorrow. Well, today, and see you tomorrow. All right.
Keisha.